to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good. So yourself?
I am very well, yes. I'm very well. I'm looking forward to talking about this movie, which could never be made today. I don't think.
When you say that...
I mean, it would have to be very, very changed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, right now, at this minute, no. Definitely not. However, having said that, there's a lot of similarities between this and Joker.
That's kind of true, actually. There are some parallels there, and I wonder if this was an inspiration, one of the many obvious inspirations that Joker clearly had.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm not as big a fan of Joker as everybody else seems to be.
Because you can see that it's derivative of a lot of other... Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff that movie riffs on. I mean, even within its own structure, it kind of has a lot of the King of Comedy in it, and
it did, yeah. I mean, if anyone's watched King of Comedy and then watches Joker, you'll be like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But there are certainly elements here. Of course, we are talking about Joel Schumacher's Falling Down, which... When did you first see this film? How did you come across it? 1993, I think it was released.
I think I saw this on TV, actually, just a late night showing on TV.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I think it was probably the same, and then I ended up buying the VHS sometime after.
It's one of those movies that I knew absolutely nothing about. At the time. I don't think I'd even... I might have heard about it, but never took it in.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the biggest Michael Douglas fan.
For me, this is probably my favourite Michael Douglas movie, if I'm honest. I think this is probably the one that, or certainly the one that I go back to more often than any other.
Yeah, I think mine's probably Romancing the Stone.
Sure, I mean that's a solid choice, you know.
Yeah, I think, but I think it's another of those guys who I think my opinion of him has changed over the years.
Yeah.
But I was always a massive Kirk Douglas fan. I still am. Kirk Douglas, is a phenomenal fucking actor. And I think, in my head, I think he was always completely overshadowed by his father until much later.
Yeah, so, for sure.
So I
mean, those are big shoes to fill.
Oh, God, yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I wouldn't,
And to be honest, he did pretty well considering, that it's he had a name that was already a megastar, and I think one of the first things he was in was it Streets of San Francisco,
possibly,
which I used to watch with my granddad when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And so I think it was like a late night showing on one of the terrestrial channels, and I sort of it was like Michael Douglas, and I just sort of sat and thought, well, there's nothing else on because it's.
Yeah,
and it's like the 90s. So I gave it a go, and fuck me, was I impressed.
Yeah, well, let's go through it, because for me, I think one of the greatest aspects of this film, and one of the greatest shots of this film, is the opening, which, like, if you've ever had a bad day in your life.
I think almost everybody's been in the beginning.
God,
when he's in the traffic jam. I think everybody's been there.
The heat, the fly, the fly in his car. Yeah. You can just feel that tension and that driving score that kicks in. It plays throughout the movie, but it really starts ramping up as we open. It's that kind of. Because obviously we have a history here that we're unaware of at this point around this guy, because we don't really even know his identity for a long time. But all of that aside, these are all things here where you can feel that kind of, I've been there, He's trying to get to work. He's in a really hot car, stuck in traffic. There's this fly buzzing around, all over him. And you can just see and feel that tension and that anger just building.
Everything is designed to be oppressive. The whole... Yeah. And it's beautifully done.
It's so incredible.
I mean, the scene literally opens with the weirdest sort of almost fisheye lens close-up of Michael Douglas's face.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fish-eyed, but it almost is. It's like full on, almost right up his nose.
Yeah,
that close.
It's uncomfortable. It's designed to be uncomfortable. And you've got the kids on the bus playing and or
chucking
kids
things at people.
Exactly.
And there's two yuppies next to him.
Yeah.
On the phone, and it's like, oh my god. Yeah, it's like I've been there, and it's not good.
It's a wonderful, wonderful scene. I absolutely love this opening. I think it's like perfect storytelling. This opening, it's incredible. It's like, you can see a man on the edge having that morning just losing.
I only when I was looking up stuff for this, I found out that there's Foo Fighters did a video.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the video for Walk, I think the song's called, which I know the song, I've just never seen the video.
Yeah.
And it's literally a sort of, almost like a comedy version of this film.
Nice.
And it goes through all things. And I thought, oh, this is brilliant. So I showed it to my wife. And she sat there and she went, I don't think I've ever seen this movie.
Oh, wow.
I said, oh my God. I said, well, then I've got to watch it later anyway.
Yeah. Do you know, it's a great situation every couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, I guess I have to watch Alien now. Or, this is fantastic.
I thought, I've got, and she said, okay, well, I'll watch it then, because it's not often she watches the movies that we do, because
same.
She's either seen them, and my wife, as much as I've tried my hardest, she's not as big a fan of movies as I am.
Sure,
she's she just doesn't see it the same way I do. But this time she was like, well, no, I've not seen that, and that actually looks interesting. So she watched it, and when we were watching the beginning, she was like, good God, they really have done a bloody good job of making this fucking horrible.
It's so uncomfortable and horrible. Now,
and again, he does that thing which he does throughout the movie to a certain degree of he literally he decides to get out. And how many times he does these things in the movie that you just think, Christ, I'd love to have done that. I wish I could do that.
Yeah, not necessarily agreeing with everything he does, but some things you're like, oh God.
There are certain things he does that you just think. I mean, there's certainly one scene in particular we'll get to much later.
Yeah,
but this is the start, and you think, yeah, I'd love to just fucking fuck the car. Fuck the car. I'm gonna walk somewhere,
Which of course he does. So it's gridlock traffic, and then the guy just gets out of his car. He's finally had enough. He tries swatting the fly. He gets angrier and angrier, and then it reaches boiling point. And he opens the car door, picks up his briefcase, and he walks. And someone asks him, like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah. You can't leave the car there.
And he just says, "I'm going home." So I'm going home, and he's just had enough. He's just snapped, and at first you're like, the guy's having problems. He's having a bad day at work or whatever, and he's just snapped. He's snapped, and he's gonna walk home. And he's just gonna leave his fucking car. He doesn't care. And then, meanwhile, we're introduced to Detective Prendergast, who is also in the same traffic jam. It's his last day. He's taking early retirement. We'll talk more about his wife later.
Everything about Prendergast screams, he's not going to make the end of this movie.
You kind of think he's screwed, right? Yeah,
he's got
in any other movie,
like cops cliche for death.
Hasn't he? If he wasn't the main character, he would definitely be dead by the end of this movie.
My wife, like halfway through, said, "Oh, he's gonna die, isn't he?" And I went, well, I'm not gonna tell you, am I? Just watch the movie.
Well, it's kind of interesting because when you get towards the end, you're like, oh, they could both die here. I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
And I think it's almost Duvall's sweetest character.
Oh, he is adorable in this movie. He's such a nice guy.
I'm not saying that he doesn't play sweet characters. He's
such a nice guy.
Brilliant actor.
Yeah.
But this character in particular he's just a full-on, all-round nice guy.
He is lovely. I think it's this between this and I really like the character he plays in Open Range. He's always just really nice in that as well.
Open Range is criminally underrated.
So underrated. We should talk about that one day.
Oh God, yeah, I'm more than happy for that.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
It came at a time when I desperately needed more westerns. I was just really needed a good one, and it came along. It was great.
And Kevin Costner's character is again very actually almost like the guy in Falling Down. He's a seriously damaged guy.
A damaged guy, yeah. But of course, at this point, we don't know why he's damaged. No. He is just upset, and he leaves his car. Detective Prendergast, further back in the traffic, he kind of sees there's a commotion going on. So he gets out of his car to go and see if he can help. And he comes across this fucking twat of a cop.
He's a motorcycle cop comes along to see what to see what the commotion is.
And I absolutely...
And it's the abandoned car.
It's the abandoned car, and I absolutely love this fucking bureaucratic twat who's like, sir, there's a lot of metal moving past us at high speeds, and he just looks around. He's like, what?
Gas literally just looks up and down the line. It's like, one's moving.
It's gridlock.
And there's that, like, is he a tile salesman?
Yeah.
Who's like, He says, "Oh yeah, I'm in tiles myself," sort of thing. Yeah. So they get he basically identifies himself as a cop, and he's saying, I love the way he says, "Yeah, it's my last day." And he says, "You were lucky to find me. It's my last day." And the motorcycle cop goes, "Yeah, I'm so lucky."
Lucky me.
And I love they push the car aside and they explain what's happened.
Yeah,
and he goes. Prendergast goes back to his car. The motorbike has fallen over. Prendergast went to help him get it up, and he says, "No, don't touch it," sort of thing. And he's pulling his bike up. Meanwhile, they've left that poor, like they haven't put the handbrake on the car.
No.
And that poor towel salesman is stuck behind the car, holding the entire weight of this car. And he's like, excuse me.
It's got for what is effectively a very dark movie. It does have some really funny little moments in it, usually like that, where it's like not necessarily a gag, but if you see in the background, you're like, oh yeah, that poor guy, he's still stuck. He's just stuck there. Yeah, great. So I'm trying to think now. Do we follow Prendergast to the LAPD now, or?
No, I think this is first of all we go to
the shop.
Yeah, well, first he goes to the phone, and I think this is where you get the first inkling that something's not right with him.
Yes.
So he goes to the phone and he phones what you presume is home, but when his wife answers, played by Barbara Hershey, who's, in this she's kind of, I would say, almost underused, but for her character,
she's great. She plays the character absolutely perfectly.
She answers the phone, and obviously there's preparations for a birthday party going on.
Yes,
little girl running around, and she answers the phone, and she's busy talking. She's talking to the daughter, and she's saying things, and she says hello, and
he doesn't answer.
We'll call him Defense for now, because that's what he's credited.
That's kind of what he's known as, by the end of the movie.
And that's what his the number plate on his car has.
Because they don't ever name him. I don't think
they do. Yes, he's called William Forrester.
Oh, do they? I don't even remember them naming him.
Yeah. Bill Forrester.
They do call him Bill at the end. You're right, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's credited as Defense, and he doesn't say anything. And she's saying hello, and he's eventually. He gives up, and he goes to call again, and he realizes that he doesn't have enough change. So he goes into
it's a convenience store.
The convenience store, with when there's a Korean guy behind the counter, and again, this scene. I mean, how oppressive the heat is.
Yeah, it's and miserable the place is, and everything's just like everything in this movie looks really seedy and just.
Yeah,
gross and just horrible.
It's worst like areas of
yes.
LA.
It's a real rundown, oppressive area.
I mean, there's a bit that he goes to just after this, and I think you see that is like open wasteland that must have had buildings there because there are like foundations and things.
Yeah,
and I'm guessing now that's probably long been built over.
I would have thought so. Yeah.
But it is the worst sort of horriblest places of LA. And you can see the guy behind the counter. He's full on sweating and hot. And you can say
that's the thing. He's just as fed up. Yeah, he is just as fed up.
He's not having a good day either. You know, it's one of those things. Everybody kind of is having a bad day.
Everyone's
today,
having a bad day. Yeah. And of course he says, can I get some change for the phone? And the owner immediately says, like, no change without a purchase. You got to buy something. Yeah,
you buy something.
Which, to be fair, he does initially.
Well, he goes to he goes to the fridge and there's that. He picks the classic Coke can.
Yes.
And he puts it over his face and
over his forehead to cool himself.
That's great. I love it when you can do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, we've all been there. And he puts the can on the counter, and the guy says, "Was it 75 cents or something?"
It's something like that, yeah.
And it's like, what happened? No, that doesn't leave me any change for the phone. He's like, "Well, that's the price." And he's like, well, it never used to be the price. That it used to be like 50 cents or something.
Yeah.
He says, I'll give you 50 cents for it, and you can give me 50 cents, and I can go and use the phone. He's like, no, what, are you crazy? It's like, that's the price it is. And that's when it goes a bit off.
It goes a bit off, yeah, because he then starts going into like this big tirade about foreigners coming to America, charging prices. I think doesn't he think that he's like Japanese or something? And the owner corrects him and says, "I'm Korean," and then he goes on about the Korean War.
I think he said, yeah. And he says, he said, "Do you know how much my country gives your country?"
I love that bit. And he's like, "How much?" He's like, "I don't actually know."
How much? And he sort of sits there. He stands there for a bit and he goes,
"I don't know.
I don't know, but it's a lot."
It's a lot. Yeah, it's like, I haven't got a clue actually. Now that you mention it, but yes, it all gets more and more kind of heated, and the shop owner obviously eventually feels that it's going to get violent, so he preempts that by grabbing a sawn-off baseball bat, effectively.
Yeah, I think it's
like a miniature baseball bat. So it's like kind of a.
You call it a waffle bat? Am
I
right?
Bat? Yeah, maybe that's
right in saying that. I mean, probably not, maybe not, but from my limited knowledge of baseball and stuff.
Yes,
wiffle, maybe.
Yeah. It's a small baseball bat, anyway.
Yes.
I've seen them before. I saw one in behind a bar in Camden, and it made me think, I guess on certain nights you must have a bit of a problem here. So he pulls this baseball bat, and obviously defends, as we'll call him, grabs the bat off of him.
Yeah, it's a bit of a scuffle, and he takes it off of him, and
he's kind of offended that he thought he was going to get physical with him.
Yeah,
he's like, Jesus Christ! Like, I was just having an argument with you, but he's
on the floor. The Korean guy's on the floor, and he says, "Just take the money and go. Just take the money and go."
Yeah,
and he's completely baffled.
Yeah, because he wasn't planning on robbing the place. He's like, "What do you think I was going to rob?" He's like, "I'm not robbing you. You're robbing me with your store prices." And then, of course, he starts going around the store. And I think it's like
donuts,
or Twinkies, something like that.
And he's like, whatever the price is, and he just and he smashes them on this thing. And he goes on to sort of he goes different things, and then I think he gets to batteries, and he says, "Batteries, how much are these?" And the guy says a price,
and then he changes it.
And he looks at him, and he says, "Now he's basically now you're lying."
Yeah.
And he tells him the real price, and he just smashes. Everything is that price. He just smashes these shelves.
Yeah, doesn't he say like all of this whole row looks suspect, and just like smashes all of it.
And again, it's that sort of thing where you think, God, I'd love to do that. You know?
Yeah.
You sort of, you think, oh, I'd love to do that. You know, how many times have you been in a shop and they've
just overpriced?
They've told you something. And he's like, fuck off! I paid like whatever down the road for this the other day.
I think the thing with this scene as well is like he doesn't even want the fucking can. He just wants change for the phone. And obviously, as he said, like, you're not even giving me change for the phone, which is the only reason I'm buying something from this shop anyway. I just literally want change for the phone. So of course, after smashing up a few an aisle or so, going through his prices, he puts the can of Coke down and he says, "One can of Coke."
Yeah, he says, "One can of what? How much?" And he says 50 cents.
Yeah, and he pays.
He does. He opens the till. He puts his money in and takes out the 50 cents and walks off.
And walks out. And then I believe we then cut to Prendergast.
Yeah.
Who is at his desk on his last day, and he opens the desk and it's full of sand.
Yeah. And you're basically told that he's retiring to... Now, I forget where it is, but it's where the original London Bridge is.
Yeah, I cannot.
But
remember.
So I've always found that fascinating. So this American bought London Bridge, and it was moved stone by stone from London to this it's like in the middle of nowhere. I'm pretty sure it's like in the middle of a desert or something.
Yeah,
and then they just replaced it with another London Bridge, basically.
Yeah.
So the London Bridge that is in London is not the original one. It's a really weird thing. And his wife loves the idea of going to move to the bridge is now.
Now it's apparently a very we get the impression from his partner, or not his. It's not actually his partner, is it? It's not his partner. It's just someone who works there, who's a friend of his, a colleague and a friend. We get the impression from her later that this place is really dull. It's like a really dull place where you just go to retire and nothing's going to happen.
It sounds like the old sort of
it's practically
typical,
a retirement village.
Retirement area where they old people go to die sort of thing. It just sounds like that, and yes, I can't remember what her last name is. Sandra is her first name.
Yeah.
I love her character. Again, her character is brilliant. And she's played by Rachel Ticotin, who's been in... She was in, The Running Man.
Yeah.
And, what was it? Not Running Man. Total Recall. She was in Con Air.
Oh, yeah, of course it was Total Recall. You're right, yeah. Yeah, Con Air. She was the guard, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was a guard, and she's been in loads of amazing fucking things. Man on really Fire. Good. She was in Man on Fire.
Oh, Man on Fire. That's a fantastic film.
Fantastic. There's another movie that we will do much later down the line. But yeah, she's fantastic. But she seems to be the only sympathetic cop to him. Everybody else kind of treats him like a joke.
Yeah, the whole department seems to treat him like an over-the-hill joke. They just treat him like shit, to be honest.
Because I think we discover later on, I don't think it is, we might as well say now.
Yeah, we can say
discover later on that I think he got shot at one point and he moved to a desk job. Now, everybody else thinks that's because he got scared of getting shot
because he's they see him as cowardly.
They think he's become a bit of a coward, and it's not. He did that because of his wife. His wife basically,
demanded that he takes a safe job, so he took the desk because he didn't want to give up the police work, but he couldn't continue doing the more dangerous, as she sees it, more dangerous things.
Prendergast says at one point, he says about his wife, he says he came home and to find his wife sat in the dark, staring at the wall, thinking that he was dead. And then when he came through the door, she thought he was a ghost, and he had to spend like 20 minutes chasing her around
the house,
to convince her that he wasn't dead.
Yeah.
So that's why he did it, and you see that when she calls him,
she's definitely got some issues, some mental health issues. And
we see him looking at a picture of a small girl.
Yeah, we know that he lost the daughter as well. He lost his daughter because at one point he does say, she never wanted a baby. She had a baby for me, and then we lost her. You get the impression that that's just basically caused whatever issue she had to worsen, and now she's,
And he says something about his wife that is really amazing because of the actual the actress herself, Tuesday Weld. So he says that she was the most beautiful woman around, and she could have been anything. She could have chose anyone she wanted, but she chose him. Like a lowly cop.
Yeah.
And now she's sort of like her beauty's faded, and that's all she's got. And the weird thing is that Tuesday Weld was a massive sex symbol in the 60s.
Yeah.
She was a really one of the most beautiful actors. I mean, you see pictures of her when she was younger. I mean, you can kind of see it in this movie, but
absolutely,
in it, like a bloody brave choice for her to play a character.
And she plays it fantastically as well. I know she's not in it an awful lot, but what we see of her, she's fantastic in this.
Mm-hmm. And you get the impression that the only one who knows about him and his wife's actual relationship is Sandra, because everybody else thinks that he's pussy whipped or whatever. And he gets this call from his wife. His wife says, she wants him to come and make sure he's home at the right time. And she's, packing up and all that sort of stuff. And he's like, yeah. I'm not going to do anything silly on my last day and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And then of course we get the Korean owner.
Yes.
Is brought to his desk, complaining about theft. And of course, Prendergast works in theft. So he's brought over, and it's quickly determined that it's not actually a theft because the guy paid for what he came for. He paid for the coke.
And I do love that when he says to him, "Can you translate for me?" And he says, "No."
He's like, "No,
why not?
Because I'm Japanese. I'm not fucking Korean."
Not fucking Korean. yeah.
Like,
and there's a lot of accusations of racism about this movie from almost every part of it. From
I can see why.
People saying it's racist against whites, people saying it's racist against every, and
I don't think that anyone in this film is shown in a good light. Like,
I don't think so.
Other than Prendergast is like the one person in this movie, and their daughter. It's the two people. Other than that, I think everyone's shown in a horrendous light. To be honest, like it's just a really horrible movie. I can certainly see there are some racial stereotypes in this film for sure. So I can see the argument.
And just to compound the issue, the guy playing the Japanese character is Korean. And the guy playing the Korean is Chinese.
Yeah, it was the 90s, the early 90s, the Wild West. Yeah.
And so he says, he came into my store. We didn't even mention the language thing in the store, but I don't think we really need to go into that.
No.
But he says to him, he came in, he smashed my place up, and he paid for his soda and he left. He says, "What, eh?" He paid for the soda and left. It's like, so nothing was stolen. He's like, "No, he told you. He paid for it. He was crazy. He attacked me."
Yeah.
He's like, okay. Then in that case, then you don't want this. You want assault.
Yeah. But then, of course, as he's walking away, he's like, baseball bat. They stole my baseball bat.
Stole my baseball bat.
And I love that Prendergast is like, wait, so he paid for the coke, but he stole your baseball bat. This guy's really discriminating.
So he's taken off. And I think this is the first sort of time where you think the Prendergast starts thinking about this is just weird.
Yeah.
There's something... But I don't think at this point, obviously he's like,
it's just really... a weird thing at this point to him because he doesn't.
It's just an odd day, He's there's a weird thing in the traffic jam. This has happened. Fine, it's just one of the. It must be Thursday sort of thing,
And I think he obviously hasn't put two and two together that it's the car that he saw earlier versus this convenience store. It's just two different things. He just knows that it's a white guy in a white shirt. I think that was the description that he's given.
Yeah.
And then
I just looked at my my notes.
Oh yeah.
And during the tussle in the store, there's a jar of American flags on the counter that gets knocked over and broken. That clearly is not
not by accident.
By accident.
No.
That's a okay, yeah, we get it.
yeah. Subtle.
Not too subtle that one.
There's a lot of things about this film. I'm happy to, as much as I have a love for this film, I'm happy to criticize parts of it because it is not very subtle, and I can see the racial stereotyping. Absolutely.
The weird thing is that there are certain things that are subtle in this movie, and then there are certain things that are literally hitting you with a bat. And that was one where I was like, okay, we get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Broken country, right? Okay, fine.
Sure. Yeah. So, Defense is walking to. Well, he's walking home.
To
Venice.
He phones again, and this time she said he doesn't speak again, and then she says,
"She knows."
I know it. She says, "I know it's you," and he says, "I'm coming home," and she says, "You can't come home. You're not allowed to."
Yeah. So at this point, is established.
It's my daughter's birthday. Why wouldn't I be there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's clearly upset by this phone call. She's clearly upset by him, and he basically hangs up, and he starts walking across wasteland.
Yes,
and
seemingly wasteland.
While he's on the phone in the background, you've got two Hispanic guys basically watching him, and they literally watch him go up to this wasteland, and he starts crossing it, and they just start following him.
Yeah,
and he sits on what I'm presuming was a
foundation of some kind,
set of steps up to a front door or something.
It looks like it might have been an old factory or something that got shut down and then demolished, and it's just all grown over. But yeah, he's on a piece of
Yeah, he's sat on what was a set of steps.
Yeah,
and I think, is this the first time where you see? Yeah, he's
the hole.
He's got the hole in his shoe.
That's a great shot when you see the shot through the shoe.
He's looking at the city through the hole in the shoe, which is it's a brilliant.
It's a wonderful
little shot.
And then he puts newspaper in there, doesn't he? I think he folds up a newspaper.
Stuffing it with newspaper.
And I've done that so many times. I always think it's always the best time when because shoes and trainers are their most comfortable when they're their most broken. That's my personal opinion. Yeah. And I never I will always if it gets to winter, then I'm obviously I need new trainers now. I need new shoes now. But the amount of times I've had holes in the bottom, I'm it's the middle of summer. It's fine. Because they're so comfortable. I don't want to go back into breaking in new boots and stuff. It's the worst.
When you get to the boots is when you start walking in puddles and you
then you've got issues.
Your socks are soaking up all the water, and you can feel it going up your leg. You think, maybe I should get some.
But in the middle of summer, you're whatever. Just, whatever.
And or is it one of the things you also get used to when you've got a flappy sole.
Oh God.
You get used to the sound of the flappy sole.
You walk in a certain way to make it work for you.
I mean, it's been a long time since that's happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, I think.
No, not anymore.
But the odd hole or something, you're whatever, it's the middle of summer.
Yeah.
But of course he's minding his own business, sorting out his shoe, and he's accosted by the two guys.
Yeah, the two gang members.
And they ask him if he knows where he is. And they basically point out to him that it's their land.
Yeah, it's their territory.
To them. It's their territory.
And he has to pay a toll.
Yes. At first he just says I is your land. I didn't realize. I understand. I'd be annoyed if you guys came into my backyard. I'm in your backyard. I will leave.
Yeah.
And then of course they say, you got to pay a toll.
Yeah. And I love those. This is about pissing contests. And I realise I'm in your shitty territory and your pissing contests, but I don't want anything to do with this. I'm sure we can sort something out like rational people. And they're like, no, just give us the case, sort of thing.
Yes, and of course he looks at the case, and under the case, of course, we know is the baseball bat.
Yeah. And one of the guys takes out a butterfly knife.
Yes.
And so he goes, okay. So he grabs his case, and then obviously reaches for the bat and literally clocks this guy across the head,
and his arm.
He hits the other. Yeah, he drops the knife. He hits the other guy. The other guy runs off. They both kind of run off.
Yes.
And that he says that line that clear a path, you motherfuckers. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Which is a fucking great line.
That's a wonderful line, yeah.
And he picks up the...
I love this bit, yeah.
He picks up the butterfly knife and he flicks it around a couple of times. And he says, how did they do that? And he and then closes it and puts it in his pocket.
Do you know, I've never tried to do that, but whenever I always think it's really cool when I see people do it. I'm like, I wonder if I could actually do that, because I feel like I'd be useless at doing that.
Yeah, it's another one... I used to have one a long time ago, and it's kind of like nunchucks. You see it and you go... oh, I could do that. And then you get them and it's like, no, It takes a lot more practice than you're willing to put in.
Oh yeah, for sure. I imagine that a butterfly knife is a lot less injury-inducing than trying to learn nunchucks, though.
You're okay as long as you don't catch your knuckles when the blade goes in.
Yeah.
But apart from that, the nunchucks, definitely I've clocked myself more with the nunchucks than I did with the knife.
Yeah. So of course, he's then walking out and minding his own business.
Yeah.
And he, I believe we then see the gang members, don't we? They've vowed revenge.
I think we get the scene. We go back to Pandagast, and he's in the
diner.
He's in the chief's office.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And the chief.
This chief is an absolute twat
he walks into the chief's office, and the chief is there, like Mr. fucking Iron Man. He's fucking hitting a punch bag. It's like, how fucking chiefs have fucking punch bags in their bloody offices?
Well, and also, do you know what I always think as well? It's like they're always doing it in like clothes that they really shouldn't be doing it in. And
it's like it's like in a vest.
And you're like, dude, is that like? I hope you've got another vest, because presumably you're going to go shower downstairs or whatever. But it's like, surely like. There's bound to be locker rooms, right? And I would imagine there's probably some punch bags or workout stuff in the area where the showers are, right? I would have thought. Maybe I'm wrong.
He's obviously too mean for that.
Sure, but then it's like, so now you have to walk through your own office stinking like shit.
He then while he's talking to Pandagast, he puts on a shirt and
I know, and then it's like, so you're just going to dress like that for the rest of the day? Are you?
You're just great. Yeah, you manky git.
And we've already established how hot it is today, so this is just absolutely gross.
And this chief is such an asshole.
I love the ending of this movie for that one line. It's like, yes.
So he's talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're retiring," and then he says about he asks him if he's got kids, and he's like, he says, no, he said I lost one. He said, oh, well, paperwork and that. And it's like, it's clear that he doesn't.
Dude, you know nothing about this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He sees this guy as an absolute fucking joke, and he doesn't give a fuck about him. He thinks he's a terrible policeman. At this point, he doesn't say that, but he says so we're sorry to lose you, sort of thing. You're a good police. I'm sorry to lose good police and all that sort of stuff. And he fobs him off.
Yeah.
And Pandagast just, he knows
full well. Pandagast knows full well, yeah.
Yeah, he knows that he thinks he's a fucking waste of space. Because he talks about his the gun incident, and, that now he's a desk jockey.
Yeah.
And he sort of gets up and, he leaves. And then I think, then we get the
gang members in the back of the car.
Yes.
And they're vowing revenge, and they have a lot of guns.
A lot of fucking guns. So they've got as it were a couple of more people and one of their girlfriends.
Yeah, and they're kind of their friends are kind of mocking them, and like, so this guy with his briefcase beat you up, and they're like, you don't realize he had a baseball bat, and they're gonna get so, but effectively they're just driving around the streets looking for him.
Mm-hmm. And again, he's on the phone again.
He's just walking along the street looking for a payphone, and I think they see him as he picks up the phone, don't they?
Yeah.
And he's having a really calm conversation, or it's calm to the point of being threatening, where he's like really calm, and he's like, "I'm coming home, Liz." Like, or is it Liz?
Beth.
Beth. Yeah, he's like, "I'm coming home, Beth." And as he
didn't she say? She says the police are here.
Yeah.
You shouldn't come. And he's like, if the police are there, put them on.
Yeah.
She's like, yep. Totally called my bluff now. It's like not much I can do about it.
No. And of course, as he's talking, he basically says, "I'm coming home," and I think he's like about to hang up anyway, isn't he? He's like pretty much hanging up.
He's about to hang up, and they drive. They literally, they kick the girl out, and then they do the drive. They do a drive-by.
Yeah.
Only they managed to hit
everyone but
almost everybody in the area except for him.
And this is another shot where you're like, this guy is clearly unhinged because they're shooting and he doesn't even react. They're shooting at him, missing him, hitting people all around him. He doesn't flinch. He just literally puts the phone down and looks at them like
it's matter of factly. He just turns round and it's almost like hey, look at that.
Yeah, he is just at this point. You're like, this guy is definitely not right in the head. Like something is snapped in this man.
They lose control and they crash their car.
Yeah,
and defense is he's walking past these injured people. There's a guy who's hitting the back. There's this woman that's hitting the leg.
Yeah,
and he just sort of casually steps over them. He looks at them as if they're not really there.
Yeah,
it's a complete matter of factly sort of that person's been shot. Oh, isn't that interesting? And he just carries on going towards the car.
Yeah. And of course he reaches the car and it's a real mess. They've really fucked.
I mean, their car is on top of another car. Like the front of it is on top of another car, and it's like, how the fuck did they do that?
Yeah, God knows. But they're hanging out the car, and one of the guns is on the floor.
Yeah, one of the guys who had already tried to accost him, he's on the floor, and defense picks up this Uzi.
Yeah,
and basically says, you missed him.
Yeah,
how hard is it to shoot a gun? It's like, and he literally points the gun at him, and the guy's like completely, oh, don't do it, man, don't do it, man. It's like, that 5 seconds ago you weren't like that, were you?
No.
Basically, he
shoots him in the leg, doesn't he?
And he shoots him in the leg. He's like, yeah, see, he says, see, how hard was that?
And
then he just learned to fucking shoot, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he
doesn't he say like get some shooting lessons, asshole?
Some shooting lessons. And he puts the gun in the bag, picks up sees this bag's got
it's full,
loads of guns in
it. Yeah.
And picks it up and just walks off.
Walks calmly off with the gym bag full of guns.
Matter of factly, just picks it up, carries it off, carries on his merry way.
It's like kind of interesting in a way that this stuff all like it escalates so much. But it's never really like it's like this. Like this was not going to end well either way because this guy is clearly deranged and he's kind of snapped. Mm-hmm. It was never going to end well. The ending probably would have been the ending anyway. But things escalate in this movie because of other people. Like now he's got a gym bag. He has a baseball bat because someone pulled a baseball bat on him. Now he's got a gym bag full of automatic weapons because these guys tried to kill him. Like, they're basically everyone that's getting involved with this guy is just making everything worse. It's like, now he's fully armed. Great.
Yeah. And then I think you get. It might have actually been in the wrong order, but then I think we get the scene.
We are awful with order of things in this.
Yeah, we are. We get a scene where the cops turn up at Beth's house.
Yes.
And they explain. He says, you've got a restraining order against him. He's not supposed to come within so many yards or feet. And she says, what's the difference? He's like, whatever that is, the judge's discretion, sort of thing. And then the copper says, so he hit the child, and she says, no.
I'm trying to prevent.
Yeah, he said. Well, he says, well, okay, so he hit you, and she's like, no, he didn't. And the copper's confusion, and I think this is one of those times where I think when I first watched it, it's like, well, I was on the side of the copper, it's like, well, this is bullshit, if he's not done anything. She says, no, he was angry, he'd stare at the wall, and I think he would. I was getting to the point where I was fearful for us.
Yeah,
he was very angry, and he was never violent, but he would walk. He'd walk off and stuff, and you can see the confusion in the copper's face. And I think when I first watched this, I was like, yeah, why the fuck this poor guy? And now,
yeah, sure. Like, now you're like, hang on a minute.
And you're like, no. This is like. This is one of those classic cases where the woman was not fucking listened to.
Yeah, for sure.
This time they fucking listened to her. You know, this guy was obviously on the verge of something before.
Yes, this was on the verge of happening when she got the restraining order. Yes. And I think in the end the cops do agree to send someone over, don't they? Or is that later?
They're there. At that point, they're there, and they say they're going to stay there for a bit.
Oh, that's right. They agree to stay for a little bit, and it's like, okay, cool. Thanks for nothing.
Because he said he's come. You know, because he said he's coming now. They don't know that he's walking.
No.
They think he's just going to drive over.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if now is when we get the meal when he goes out for the. When Prendergast goes out for the food with the other detective. I think it's around here. It may be after.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think this is where that,
because I know it's this and the whammy burger scenes are almost next to each other, aren't they? Where you've got Prendergast eating and then Defense trying to go eat as well. And this is where we get a little bit more information about Prendergast and his wife. And this is where he tells the story of like her, you know, her giving up everything for him and having a baby, which she never wanted a baby, and she had the baby for him, and they lost the baby, and it, you know, it's
not even a baby. The thing is it was a toddler, and and she died of like.
Did he say it's very odd the way that she died?
Well, it's like cot death. It's like cot death. That you know, and it's very rare for an older child for that to happen to. And my wife did say, did the wife kill her? And I guess I never really thought about it.
Do you know, I hadn't considered that, but he does say like she never wanted a baby, and I'd never thought about that either.
No, I hadn't, and my was like, did she kill her? And I'm like, well, it doesn't really say.
It's certainly nothing I'd ever considered before, but now that she said it, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, maybe. Hadn't thought about that.
But either way, the wife never recovered.
No,
and then
again, of course he got
compounded with everything else,
and him getting shot and that stuff.
She as well became a disturbed person, and that's, I think, a lot of this film is about having issues and not getting help. Not
getting the help you need, and there are a number of characters in this film who clearly needed some help and just never got it. Because you could make the argument with the Latino gang, they're in a horrible neighborhood. They've been, stuck in this horrible area, deprived area. They're not getting the support. They're not getting the schooling that they need necessarily. And it's all turned to this, it's you're in a very deprived neighborhood where people are really struggling to make a living, struggling to, survive. So the area's not getting the money it needs or the support it needs. Defense has obviously not got the support it needs.
This movie does a very good job of showing you all of the levels.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we'll get to it. We'll get to the rich people later. Well, it does show you, continuously what the country has done to people.
Yes, because he walks through. He starts in the deprived areas and he ends up in the very expensive area.
Yeah,
as he walks.
And while they're about to have their lunch, Sandra's actual partner, who's another douche fucking
he's an asshole as well.
He's another fucking pretty boy douchebag. He comes in and says, "Oh, there's this been this shootout and
we gotta go.
We've got to go." And Prendergast hears the description and he's like, "Hang on, what did you say?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's just some guy, it's like, what the hell's a white guy doing in that,
in that area?
A white business guy doing in that fucking area?" And he says to Sandra, "Look, keep me involved in this, call me later,
Yeah.
Tell no, that's right. They don't get the description. He says when you get the description of the guy,
let me know.
Call me and tell me who it is.
Yeah.
So they go off, and as they're going off, he talks to her, and he says about his wife, and he says to Sandra, "There's one thing I never told you about my wife," and she says, "What?" And he says, "I love her."
Yeah.
He's doing all this because he loves her.
Yeah, of course.
And I always got the impression that Sandra probably likes him.
Yeah,
I don't know whether I'm reading too much into that.
But maybe.
I always got the impression that,
like if he was a little younger, maybe there would have been something there.
If he wasn't attached,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe. They certainly have a very strong friendship. Like you get the impression he doesn't get on with anyone else in the department apart from her.
No,
and you get the impression that they give her shit for being friends with him, even they're like, why are you friends with this guy? But
and they clearly this dinner thing was they used to do this a lot, because when they get there, he says, "What number did we use? Was it number 57 or something?"
Yeah,
56. He's like, "Oh yeah, 2 of those." So they obviously had this sort of this thing before.
Yes, yeah.
So then I think we get the whammy
burger. So we've seen Prendergast eat, and now Defense goes to get some food, and he heads to the whammy burger where he wants some breakfast. He asks for the perfectly reasonable as he asks for his breakfast meal, and they tell him, like, we're not serving breakfast anymore. We serve breakfast until 11. It's now like 11:05 or something, isn't it? It's like literally 5 minutes past the point they've stopped. And he says, I'm the customer. The customer's always right, and
he says, "Yeah, I want to speak to the manager." So the manager comes over,
and the manager's a dick as well.
He's another dick, and he says that, well, that's you can't have it. It's our policy. After 11, breakfast stops.
And he is like rightly looking at it like, what difference does it make to you if you just make the breakfast thing instead of the lunch thing?
Yeah,
and it's like, for the sake of 5 minutes, guys,
Mm-hmm.
And, again, it gets heated until he pulls out the submachine gun.
Pulls the gun, yeah.
And, of course, everyone immediately screams and freaks out, and he's like, whoa, like, stop, And
I love, there's a couple of things I love in this scene. Well, there's loads of it. The whole scene's fucking
the scene
amazing.
is fantastic.
There's 2 little things. There's a guy who is almost to the door, and he goes, "Excuse me, sir, like, no, where are you going?" And
enjoy your meal.
The guy points to the door, and he's like, no, sit down, finish your meal.
Yeah.
And I love that. He sits down. The guy was almost to the door. He left his fucking wife there.
I know.
Yeah. His wife is still sat there.
Yeah.
His wife is still sat there. And the other thing I love is the girl behind the counter is Dee Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer's little sister, and she's clearly I think actually in real life she found the scene funny, so she couldn't stop laughing. But I think it adds to the scene. I think the fact that she's been behind this fucking it feels to me like she's been behind this desk, like, putting up with this shit for so long, and she just sees this guy coming in with a gun and, like, basically shitting on her manager, who's probably trod on her so much.
Yeah.
She's fucking enjoying this.
She's like, this is an awful situation, but at least he's getting his comeuppance. My dickhead of a manager. And of course, he accidentally lets off a shot as well.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, sorry, the trigger's really sensitive. I didn't mean to."
It's fucking Tech 9.
And I love that they immediately start cooking his breakfast, because the manager's like, "Cook the man's breakfast, cook the man's breakfast." Yeah. And then he's looking around and he's like, "Actually, I've changed my mind. I do actually want the lunch."
Yeah, I will have lunch.
So of course,
and I love that he turns around. He turns to the looking around, and he turns to the old couple that the guy had just tried to leave for, and he says to her, "How is it?" And she pukes into the burger, and he says, "I think we've got a food critic."
And then of course they bring him his lunch, but he looks at it, and as soon as he looks at it, he's like, "What what the fuck is this? Like, and you know, this is one of the things that I always was like, oh my god, that's so right. Like he's like look at that photo and look at what you've served me.
Big, juicy, plump burger you've got on that photo, and look at this sad, limp thing that you've given me here. And I know that he turns around and he says, can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture? Anybody? And he's looking around and they're all like, nobody's moving.
No, they're all like, we don't want to get shot.
And then that little kid puts his hand up.
Yeah.
And again, it's a scene where you go, oh, I'd fucking love to have done that. You know, when you go into McDonald's and you say, I want this burger, and you look at it and you think, yeah, this isn't what the fucking picture's. It's I mean... No. You know, everybody knows it. It's always you know, we all know that it's not. No. But I think we've all kind of thought, yeah, I'd love to fucking kick off and, you know, maybe not quite like that.
No.
But yeah, deep down, I think we'd all want to sort of do that. It's one of those horrible things that in the back of your head that your brain tells you to do, you know?
Or at least kick up a stink about it.
Yeah,
because I'd never do that either. But you're like, you know, in reality.
Exactly.
I mean, in reality, you just don't go to those places if you don't like it that much. But I have always thought, like, God, those pictures are nothing like what you actually get served. Nothing like it. Yes. So then he obviously leaves. He's like,
well,
fine.
The scene cuts then, doesn't it? After the hand up, I think we go to.
I think we go back to Prendergast, and he's. Oh no, actually, it might be that they've got the girl in now.
Yeah,
from the shooting.
He's at the office, isn't he? He's gone back to the office, and they're all in the interrogation room watching the other two coppers talk to this girl. Yeah,
the girlfriend of the gang, one of the gang members.
She's first of all, she's like refusing to talk, and then the others, there's like a load of coppers in this thing, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, this is a joke," so they all walk out, but he kind of stays. And then she says he's just about to leave, I think, and she says, "I told you it was a white guy, like with like shirt and tie, like," and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" and he's like he bangs on the glass, and he comes around and like the two coppers like really pissed off.
They're like, stop getting involved in our case and leave
like,
out.
What the fuck are you doing? It's like, you know, you're interrupting our case. This is our case, and you're fucking retiring. Why the fuck are you getting involved?
Yeah.
And he's like, says to the, you know, is that your description? Is it a guy, you know, white guy, shirt and tie? And she's like, yeah. He's like, I'm not like lying or anything. He's like, this is who it was, and they're all like, yeah, fuck off, yeah, we don't believe you, sort of thing. And he's like, no, well, I believe you. And he you know, they walk him out of the other copper walks him out of the room. He's like, yeah, you go do you concentrate on your shit, and you go concentrate on and
go retire.
Let us do some police work, sort of thing, and then he goes back in.
Yeah, and then of course, I think this is where Prendergast kind of starts putting a picture together. He looks at a map.
Yeah.
And he realizes that, you know, there's a link here. There's a line between the car, the shop, the gang area, and the shooting. Yeah. That links up. It's you know, it's the same person. It's someone's walked from there.
I think we've done the old thing. We've got the scenes mixed up because maybe. I think the lunch scene happens after. There.
You might be right.
The guy comes in. Her partner comes in to talk about the guy in the McDonald's. In the whammy burger.
Oh, you're right. Actually, yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that, and then that's we did that slightly out of order.
We always do it out of order.
That's what we do.
It's fine. It's just what happens. So yes, and I believe that he basically tries to make this case, but of course no one's taking him seriously because they, like you said, they see him as a failure, as a failed cop, loser, and they ignore his.
He's a joke to them. He's a complete joke. They don't.
Yeah,
you know, he's a desk jockey, washed up cop.
And Sandra does, you know, like you said in that the diner scene, she does agree to keep him in the loop, but the other cops. Just like, just shut up. Leave us to do the real work. You're retiring. Go retire.
Fuck, you know. wait for the cake later on, and you know, everything's fine.
Yeah. The defense's ex is trying to convince the police to stay, but I think they leave now because they're like, well, we've hung around for an hour or so. He's not coming.
He's not coming. We can't stay here all day.
Yeah, we've got other things to do. Call us if there's a problem, and fobbed off.
Yeah.
And they leave. I believe defense is now. He's looking for a gift for his daughter. I think he's walking through the streets. Isn't
I think he's on the bus stop.
Oh, is this the bus stop? Yeah.
I think it's the bus stop because they're at the bus stop and the bus turns up and there's is it just the Americans don't do queues or something?
I have no idea.
They all just try and pile into this bloody bus.
Yeah.
And they're jostling him, and he's like, okay. He decides to carry on walking, so he turns around and there's a construction site.
Yeah.
And the guy says to him, "You can't go here. Walk right. Like you got to walk round." He's like, "Well, what are you doing?" He's like, working. It's like, well, why? Why can't I go for it? It's like, well, because it's a construction site. He's like, fucking take it out with the city sort of thing. He's like, he's like, okay, fine. So he goes to walk round, and that's where he ends up
in the park.
Talking to, he's walking. I don't think it's a park. I think it's like Venice Beach, isn't it, or something like that?
It may well be. It kind of looks parky.
Yeah.
I love this scene as well. This is a great scene.
Yeah, he's walking on this guy. This homeless guy comes up to him and says, "Hey," he says, "Hey man," he says, "I drove all the way from Denver." He says, "I realised I didn't have enough money for gas. I ran out of gas and I slept in my car." And he says to him, "Show me your driver's license."
Yeah, yeah.
What? Says what? He says, "Show me your driving license. If you drove here from Denver, you've got a driving license." He said, "I don't have a license." He says, "Well, then you didn't drive from Denver, did you?" He says, "Okay, man." He says, "Fine. Don't if you be a dick sort of thing," and he sort of goes to walk off, and then he comes back and he sort of spins him this thing about.
Doesn't he say "Whoa, a hell of a way to treat a vet"?
A vet, yeah.
And he's like, "You're
a vet." He says, "You're a veterinarian." And
he
says, "No, man." He says, "I was in Nam." And he says,
"How old were you?"
He says, "How old were you? What were you like 10?" And he says, "No, I meant the Gulf." He says, "I was in the Gulf." And he comes, he's like, "No." He's like, "Hey man," he says, "I got nothing." He goes, "You look at you," because you got a bag. He goes, "You got two bags," because I got nothing. I got nothing here. And he says to him, "You know what? You're right."
Yeah.
And I think this is
this is symbolic of him just being like, "I don't need the briefcase anymore. I'm done being that guy."
Yeah. This is him making a choice. He's been pushed far enough, and he's now.
I think this is like the point of no return here. This is like this decision is made now.
Later, and this is the decision he makes. He says, "No, this is it."
So he gives him his briefcase.
He gives him the briefcase, and he walks off.
And I love this guy is so happy as he opens the briefcase. He's opening the briefcase, all smug and happy, and then he looks at what's in there. I think it's like an apple and a sandwich.
It's his lunch. It's an apple, a sandwich, and I think something else. And it's like, what the it's like fuck. He loses his shit. It's like,
and I always think what was he expecting to find in the briefcase?
Yeah,
it's like the guy just gave it to you. It probably didn't have even from his perspective, it's like it wasn't going to be full of money, was it?
No, at best it would be full of a load of paperwork.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe some pens or something.
Yeah,
I can't imagine it's going to have bullion in it or something.
Well, and if it did, he wouldn't have given it to you, would he?
No.
What was the best you were expecting? But he throws the apple after him and stuff, and it is quite humorous.
Yeah. And he just everything is so completely matter of fact.
Yeah,
it doesn't even register that. He sort of glances at the apple, but carries on walking. Doesn't.
Yeah. Yes.
I think this is where we get the phone call from between Pendergast and
his wife.
And
Sandra.
And,
yeah,
and we get it's both of them, isn't it?
Yeah,
so he's got them both on the line. He's like, "Hold for a minute." It's like, I can't hold for a minute. I'm talking to I'm trying to take statements.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my job and talk to you.
And he's talking to his wife, and she is losing. She's just had the cat mauled her, and she's bleeding, and she starts getting really angry with him. He's like, "Mister, you fucking come home. You know,
you're retiring today. What are you doing?
Yeah,
what can they possibly need you for?"
Your wife tells you she's bleeding to death, and she's full on like, "Oh, woe is me," dramatic mode.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, so it's okay. And he starts singing to her, "London Bridge is Falling Down."
Yes.
And he's got he's got a snow globe with the bridge in it.
Yeah.
And she sort of calms down, and he says, "I'll be home as soon as I've finished.
Yeah.
Everything's okay. Don't worry, it's all good," sort of thing.
Mm.
And then he goes back to Sandra, and again,
she's just like, "For fuck's sake, man!"
She's like, but her fucking partner again. He's like,
"Oh yeah,"
he's there jangling his watch at her and all that. It's like, "Oh, fuck off, you knob!" And he's taking the piss out of him over the phone and all that, out of the phone and sort of stuff. And then Sandra confirms that it was he paid for his lunch. He didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
He just had what it is. There was a disagreement, and then he went, sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, okay. So this pattern is confirmed. Yes, and then I think we cut back to Defense, who is he buys like a snow globe, doesn't he, for his daughter?
It's a snow globe for his daughter
off of one of the street markets.
Yeah. And while he's doing that, there's a guy across the road, a black guy who is dressed exactly as he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
complaining about losing his job. I think.
Yeah, he's got a placard. And yes, I think he lost his job, but he applied for a loan. And
that's right, and everyone's declining him, and everyone's.
And the bank said that he can't have a loan because he's not economically viable.
Yeah.
And this he's going up and down the street shouting about. I think he's outside the bank, isn't he?
Mm.
And he's saying about how he's not economically viable, and all this.
Yeah.
And he's literally just the parallel to him.
Absolutely.
He's another working class guy who basically has been shat on by the system, and the cops, the cops come and they arrest him, and he's like, "Here they come to take me away, they come to silence me," and I love that as the car.
Oh yeah, it's such a powerful shot. This
he's shouting out of the window, and he sees him.
He just looks at him, and he's just like, "Don't forget me."
Don't forget me, and Defense just nods his head.
Yeah.
And he, the drive off. It's a fucking beautiful,
a really
scene.
Powerful scene. That, yeah.
And again, we should point out actually that Defense, the way he looks in that, he looks like a guy from the 50s.
Yeah, he does. He looks like a man out of time. He's dressed for.
He's completely got this, the 50s rims on his glasses, and he's got that crew cut.
Yeah.
He literally could have stepped out of. Or 60s, I guess, the whole...
Yeah, he looks like he's like had a style... the style that he grew up around, he never changed, and he's just stayed in that style.
Yeah.
And of course, we will very shortly, I think, maybe the next scene, be introduced to his mother.
Yes, soonish.
I think it's pretty soon, because they pay the APV after that, don't they? Which is when they start looking for him, and he hides in the Army Navy store.
I think first of all we get another phone call.
Yeah.
So he goes to the phone booth, and he again, he says he's coming. I think is this the point where he says he's reached the point of no return to her?
I think he does. Yeah, he pretty much says like, that's it. And
again at this point you think, okay, this guy clearly is fucking deranged.
Oh yeah. If you weren't convinced already, like now, you're like, oh, okay, yeah,
exactly. And I don't think I certainly didn't get that enough the first time I watched this movie. I think obviously you see he's great.
I think I was quite young when I first watched this, so like a lot of this probably went over my head. But watching it as an adult now, you're like, oh god, like Jesus. Yeah,
I think because I think a lot of people have definitely misinterpreted this movie. They misinterpreted him in the same way that the guy in the surplus store in a minute interprets him. That he's like he's a vigilante. He's doing this, for a cause. And he's not really.
No, he's just snapped, and he's just literally, he is trying to go home, but along the way, he's just, if things annoy him, he's confronting the things that frustrate him in daily life. Really, like anything that it's all seemingly small things, and like, you know, like, oh, this shop's a bit expensive, or oh, this burger's not how it looks in the picture. It's the day-to-day things that everyone probably thinks about and just gets a bit annoyed about. And then you're like, but
you move on with your day.
But you move on with your day, and instead of that, he confronts it, and you know, and obviously he has some strong opinions that he, you know, as far as he's concerned, are the way things should be, and he confronts that as well.
Yeah. And then you get this, again, another douchebag who's like, do you know other people are trying to use the phone? You selfish prick, and all that sort of stuff. And he just looks, he's, okay. And he says, look, I think the phone, he just picks out the gun, blows the shit out of them.
Again, very matter of fact.
Yeah. And then he just turns to him and says, phone's out of order. And then the guy's like completely stunned, like, what the fuck
what just happened? Yeah.
Yeah, he just calmly walks off. And
he's not even angry when he says to the guy. He's just like, matter of fact, I think is, you know, things out of order.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I'm trying to think at what point Prendergast goes to visit Defense's mother. I think it must be around here, because
he's worked out that there's a through line where he's going and what he's doing.
Because doesn't he go and check out the car, and he realizes the car license plate, which is how he finds the address.
Well, he said it was yes, that's how they get the address, because he said this is about the
because that's when he shouts at the Korean owner. He shouts defense at him, and the Korean owner's
because that's what
because the Korean owner was like, I have the bat for defense,
and so that's what he says to Sandra. He grabs Sandra, and they go up to he says, you know, grabs her, okay, we're going, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is this where the stripper comes in? Is this where they come in with the cake?
Oh yes, you are probably right. Yes, it is.
Because I think they're just about to leave, and they all come in with hats and the birthday cake. Not birthday cake, retirement cake.
Retirement cake, yeah.
And they come in with a stripper, and he's like, "Yeah, this is all sort of lovely, but I've got to go." And they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He's like, "No." He says, "You know, something's come up. I've got to go. You know, this is all great. Thank you very much." He says, "But I've got to go." And Sandra's partner says about his wife, and how, I wouldn't want to retire either if I had his wife. And Pendergrass just fucking decks.
Yeah, it's like, it's so well earned as well.
So satisfying.
So well earned. Yeah,
completely takes a fucking swing at him. That's brilliant. So they leave, and he says to Sandra, "Okay, we'll start at the convenience store, and we'll work our way." So he gets to the convenience store, and he looks over, and he sees the sign, the billboard from at the beginning they could see from the road.
Yeah,
and he says, "Hang on a minute, I've stay there. I've got to go up here. I'm just going to check something out." And she thinks he's going for a piss.
Yeah.
And he sort of climbs up this embankment and goes over, and he sees that is exactly where they were this morning.
Yeah.
So he comes back, and like he says, he shouts at Mr. Kim or whatever it is, like, "Defense!" And the guy's like, "What the fuck?"
Because this guy's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, he's just sweeping up his the front of the store, isn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, they figure out, you know, that they go off, and I think we've done this in the wrong way, because Sandra's, they're asking around, and that's when he goes into the army surplus store to get new boots.
Yes.
And he's there, and he sees Sandra across the way talking to people, asking people, you know, have they seen this guy, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the guy behind the counter, he's listening to
this guy.
Police
fucking guy. And like, is it Frederick Forrest?
Frederick Forrest,
Oh my god, he is the most unlikable. Oh, he's so fucking horrible. This guy.
He has played some seriously unlikable characters.
He has, and he does it so well. It's like, God, I hate this guy so much.
Yeah,
he is just the worst qualities of every human ever in one person.
He's an awful fucking human being.
But he plays. You're right. He plays those horrible roles so well.
Yeah, he's so really good at them. And he's listening to the police radio, and he sees the guy come in. He sees defense come in, and he immediately works out who he is. He's like, oh, he's been following this guy's case as it was, and so he comes out and he says, hey, can I help you, sort of thing. And he's like, oh, I'm looking for new shoes, and he explains about the new shoes, and then he starts. There's two guys in the store who I clearly are gay.
Yeah.
And he starts making derogatory comments.
He's horrendous, like
awful fucking things.
Absolutely hideous.
And the guys start to leave, and one of them does like.
One of them's like, I'm not going to put up with this.
Look, one of them says, look, just leave it. We'll go. And the other's like, no, fucking fuck this shit. What's your fucking problem, sort of thing? And he's like, he says, my problem's people like you. And it's like, oh god, what a fucking douchebag.
He's a horrible man.
He goes to confront him, like, and the guy pulls a gun and says, go on, make your move, sort of thing. And they're like, yeah, come on, let's just go. And as he's leaving, he pulls over a sunglasses stand, I think.
Yes, and then like this fucking dickhead. He's like, you see what happens? And he's like complaining that homosexuals would smash up his store, and it's like, no, like the only reason that happened is because you were fucking horrible. You're an absolute twat, and you were like being massively homophobic and awful to these people. But he blames it like they were going to do something like that anyway. It's like, you see what happens? It's like, no, that only happened because of you. That happened because of your actions, not them. It was as a result of you.
So he goes and tries on some boots.
Yes, he's in like the changing room, isn't he? Like a changing, got like a curtain kind of thing.
Yeah, a little cubicle, and he kicks Sandra comes in.
Yes,
and he kicks the bag, pulls the curtain over him, kicks the bag underneath the curtain, and he goes over to her and he starts basically being fucking sexist to her.
This guy is just like,
why don't they call them Officer S's?
Yeah,
like it's like, what the fuck?
He just tries to be as demeaning and is just oh god, I love to hate this guy. He's just like, oh,
he is the fucking worst human being ever.
Yeah.
Well, not. I mean,
not
all relative, but
he's
all relative.
It's certainly in this movie. He is like the worst.
And he basically, he fobs her off, and
he says he's not seen anyone like that.
She's only happy to leave. Too happy.
Yeah. Because she's going shop to shop and putting
out his description.
Yeah.
And then he goes over to defense and he says, I'm the same as you, man. I've been listening to what you're doing. You're standing up for, you're doing the right thing. You're a vigilante, man. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. He's like, let me show you something. So he takes him to the back to his private collection.
Oh, and God, the private collection.
All fucking like Nazi stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's fucking talking about an empty canister of Cyclone.
Yeah, he's like, this was actually B. used, and it's like,
oh,
dude,
man.
You are messed up.
Yeah, they really did do everything they could to make this guy a complete and utter waste of human tissue.
Oh, he is absolutely hideous.
And he says to him, I'm not fucking like you.
He's like, we're nothing alike. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm not. I'm nothing like that. He's like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. You're putting it straight to these people. He's like, no, I'm just trying to get home.
I just want to go home.
And of course, then he basically says, oh well, then you're obviously part of the problem. You're obviously gay as well.
He also sees the snow globe.
Yes,
in the bag.
Right. Yeah. Well, he basically tries to arrest him, and he pulls his gun on him, and he says, "Right, I'm gonna
take you in. Yeah,
I'm gonna take you in." And he's talking about how he's gonna get treated in prison, and he's got him over the counter, and he's got, like, keeps telling him to spread his legs. It's like, okay, this is getting a bit weird. And he says to him, give me your other hand, give me your hand. And he's like, I can't.
I love this line. He's like, why? And he's like, gravity.
Gravity. So if I take my hand off, I'm going to fall over. So then he hits him to the floor, and he says, well, and he's like proper in his face, and Defense pulls out the butterfly knife.
Yeah, and stabs him like... in the
stabs
traps,
him in his shoulder. Yeah, right in his shoulder.
But obviously he severs something pretty severe. The guy is not well.
He is not going to get up from that.
And he's obviously in shock. He pulls the knife out and he looks at it. He's like, that's not one of mine.
This isn't one of mine, yeah. And then this is kind of like the final of his transformation, isn't it? He puts on the jump. He gets new boots and
he's now lost
a jumpsuit. He's completely lost pretty much his original identity now.
Yes, yeah, he's wearing like military garb now, and he's completely.
And he's now got a fucking rocket launcher as well, because the guy shows him
the rocket launcher. Yeah. Yes. Oh God, I love that bit. We'll get to that in a moment, because that's fantastic as well.
Yeah. So I think now is where we get to the Pendergast and Sandra go to the mother's house, I think.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting scene, because we see that Defense's mother is obviously got a lot of similarities to his wife.
She's like his wife, yeah. And Sandra's sort of
trying. She's trying to kind of help, trying to talk to her, and she's really not responding. And
Pendergast just goes over to a collection of ornaments.
Yeah. And he's like, which is your favourite? And
yeah. He's like, I like those. He says, did this one melt? And she's like, no. It's a giraffe drinking.
Yeah.
And it's like, he calms her down. He
knows how to deal with her completely.
Yeah, he knows how to talk to a disturbed woman. And, he eventually gets through to her, and he starts asking her questions about her son. And, he goes in. They go to his room, and they discover he's got, they discover that he worked for a defensive. He built missiles for the government.
Thus, defense. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was obviously technically minded. Because they've got like a compass and protractor type set.
Yeah.
Or drawing draftsman's tools.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And she says, he's a good boy. He's not a terrible person. He says, but even she says, sometimes he sits there and he doesn't say anything and he just stares.
Yeah.
And you think, it's like, this guy fucking needs help.
This guy's been on the edge for a long time, and Yeah. And I think he gets Sandra to call the place of work, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And she comes back and says he was sacked like ages ago.
Yeah, he's been sacked for I think a month or something.
Yeah, a couple of months or something like that. And of course she's like, then where has he been going all this time?
Where has he been eating his lunch?
Yeah, well, and that's the question, isn't it? Because at the start it's like, was he even driving to see her at the start? His daughter, or was he trying to drive to wherever the hell he's been going this whole time?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming he was probably like just driving to follow her and his daughter and just watch them or whatever.
Yeah.
But of course, so the mother's like, where's he been going all this time? And and then of course we come back to Defense. One of the funnier scenes in the movie where he's walking along back to.
I think, hang on. First, we get another scene with his wife, I think, and another copper.
Do we? I don't even remember that.
Yeah, there's another scene with a female police officer, and she's come over and she says, look, there's nothing I can do. I know.
They're pretty much like, stop calling us. Like,
yeah, it's like there's nothing we can do. We can't, we can't do anything. She says something about along the lines of, next time somebody gives you a vote for more police on the streets
yes.
or something. You vote yes, and she gives her some paperwork and she drives off.
Yeah, it's like, well, how do you know she didn't vote yes? Like, like you're just assuming her political beliefs. Well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get this scene where he's gone back. I think it's the same building site. I'm assuming it's the same building site.
No, it's not. It's
a different one.
I think it's further up.
It's further up, right?
Because I think that one, the first building site, I think was in like
a more of a built up area, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like in town. This one's on a road construction site.
Yeah.
And he goes up to the guy.
This guy is a bit of a dick.
Sat there,
like
But I guess, again, it's just a guy doing his fucking job.
Yeah, he is doing his job. But he is a bit rude about it. It is like,
It's like, it's construction. It's like, what? He says, well, the road needs repairing. He says, the road's, what? It's broken. Well, what was wrong with it yesterday?
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine
yesterday. And then he said, he talks about how these things work, which I know is how these things work. The city council needs to spend so much money, otherwise they don't get that amount of money.
They'll lose the money the following year.
They'll lose the money the following year. So they have to do maintenance work that maybe they don't need, or maybe stuff that add a bit of stuff that they could stretch out, that sort of thing. So he leaves this thing and he pulls out the rocket launcher, and the guy's like, fuck.
Well, I think first he actually gets him to admit that there's nothing wrong.
Yes.
He's like, tell me, because he sees the gun, doesn't he, first?
Yeah, that's right.
He sees the gun in his pants.
Yes, he's got gun in his belt, yes.
And he's like, tell me what's wrong with this road. And eventually the guy says, nothing. Because at first he's like, I don't know. I just work here. And then he's like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And that's when he pulls out this fucking rocket launcher. And this guy must have been like, holy shit. Like, I was just like, I thought this, like this escalated fast. Like I was just telling this guy that the road's closed. Then we got in a heated argument, and it's like, now there's a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
And I love this shot because he runs down. He's like, guys, this guy's insane. He's got a rocket launcher. And they're all like running away. And then he's trying to figure out how to use this rocket launcher, because he's like, I have no idea how this works.
No.
And then these kids come up, and I love this little kid. He's just like, you're pointing the wrong way. You need to just pull it out like this, and it all falls out.
Flip up the sights.
This kid just gives him this instruction on exactly how to use it.
Now what do I do? He says, where are the cameras?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, they're
you're making a movie, and he's like looking around. He says, oh, don't worry. He says, they're there. Don't worry about it.
What does he call the movie? He does name the movie, doesn't he? And I can't think what he calls it.
He does. Fuck. What does he call it?
It's something deconstruction or something like that.
Is it under construction?
Under construction, like it might be. Yeah, it might be.
And the guy, he says, "What do you think?" And he says, "Yeah, it's all right, I guess."
Yeah. And then he asks where the cameras are, and he's like, "Oh, they're hidden. Don't worry about it. Just step back."
Yeah. And he says, "No, what do they do?" He says, "Yeah, you just where's the trigger?" And he says, "Yeah, like there." It's like he goes, "Okay."
And he accidentally pushes it, doesn't
he? As he's moving up to his shoulder, he basically knocks the trigger, and it goes.
It basically goes under, doesn't it? It goes through the tunnel that they've been
the drains that he covered where the guy was sat.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh, I guess it must have just been a dud." And then, like, the whole construction explodes.
Tremendous explosion! Yeah, it's fucking brilliant.
And this kid's reaction is fantastic. He's like, "Cool, man!" Like,
yeah.
Oh, it's so good, so good. Prendergast and Sandra get the call about the Nazi guy.
Well, they get a call, and they're trying to find out where the wife lives.
Yes,
and his mother doesn't know.
Mm-hmm. She's like, I have no idea. No,
he's for some reason he just doesn't know where she is.
Yeah,
and I think he does one more call to her.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I think this time though he is completely fucking. Yeah, this is not going to end well. Conversation.
Isn't this the phone call where he... No, actually, I think it might be a bit later. I think there's one more. There's a phone call when he says, and she's like, "Oh Christ, you're really nearby now. Like, you're like really close."
Well, he's at the... That's right. He's at the merry-go-round that they used to go to.
That's right. And
he says they've changed the ice cream parlor.
It's obviously somewhere they
used to go to. Is now some... I can't remember what he says it is now. Bloody hell. He says what, but they've changed it. He says, "Can you believe that?" And it's like so sort of matter of factly how he says it. It's like, "Can you believe the place we used to love, our ice cream parlor? It's changed. Can you believe that?" And it's like, fucking hell, you're terrifying her.
Yeah, and obviously she realizes now that he's getting quite close, because that's the like, oh shit, like that's close to us.
And we should also say that when he was in the Army Navy surplus. The guy broke his.
He broke the snow globe. Yeah,
he broke the snow globe, so it doesn't have that anymore. And I think that's when. I think she phones the cops again, and they say they can't justify sending another copper to a place where they've already sent cops like twice today.
Yeah.
And I think I
think they hear the call about the Nazi being killed, and she's like, "Jesus Christ, Prendergast, I was literally just there. The guy's an asshole, but like, we're on the right track, clearly." But I can't remember how Prendergast... I think they just follow, don't they? I think they end up just following the trail. Because at this point, there's... this is now we get to the golf course, don't we now?
Yes. Yeah, I think we probably done it out of bloody order, but yes, we get the golf course scene now.
Yeah, so he's walking through the golf course, and you've got these fucking assholes playing golf, and they're he's rich.
Well, one of them
seems quite reasonable, actually. Yeah.
He says clearly because you're not allowed to go. Well, first of all, they think he thinks he's a groundskeeper.
Yeah,
and he says he's not a groundskeeper. He's not in the approved uniform.
Yeah.
And he says. He's like, "You can't go through here." He says, he says, I'm walking through. He's like, "No, you can't." And he literally hits a ball at him.
Yeah, which could have fucking killed him, to be fair.
It does hit him, doesn't it?
But imagine if that had hit him in the fucking head. That could have literally killed the guy. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. So he's like, "This is my golf course, rah, rah, rah." And he's being a proper dick. And he takes out the shotgun.
Yeah.
And basically he's like saying about how shitty little game because you've got all this area is for your shitty game. He says this could be a park. You could have kids playing here, or you could have some nice things here. Because no, instead of you rich assholes have got it for your fucking stupid game.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I think that's right. He hits he's talking about the stupid golf cart, and he hits the accelerator.
And it just starts rolling.
Starts rolling off and goes towards a pond.
Yeah.
And he starts having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
he makes a joke about how now I was just trying to pass through, and you didn't let me, and now you're going to die wearing that stupid outfit.
Stupid little hat. I think
he says. Yeah, and of course his friend's like running down after the cart because the medication's in the cart.
"What's wrong with you?" He says, "Hi." He says, "Well, what can I do?" And he's like, pills. He says, "Well, where are they?" And he's like, the golf cart,
which is by now careening into the.
It's like already started sinking into this fucking pond. And he says, I think he does say, "Well, now it's sinking into that fucking pond."
Yeah, and you're here dying in that stupid
and you're here dying with that stupid hat, and then they again just casually walks over him, carries on going.
Yeah. And then, of course, I think now we've got... I think they've got the word out now, and there's helicopters flying around looking for him, and he hides in the garden, doesn't he?
He goes over a wall.
Yeah.
And the top of the wall's got barbed wire on it. Mm-hmm. And he opens up his hand, and in this massively opulent garden and swimming pool... there's a family, I think it's like 2 kids and a mum and dad, they're having a barbecue.
Yeah. And of course he comes in real angry. He's like, cut his hand.
Who the fuck puts barbed wire on their fucking fences. People, and I love the way he just says, people coming over there. It's like, no, it's a wall, you fucking nut job.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, he is
be coming over the wall.
At this point, he's detached from reality. He's really lost it now. Yeah,
and of course, the police. You can hear the police behind him, and you can hear the calls for the guy dying, sort of thing. And
I think
he takes the little girl's hand, and they sort of hide in a little alcove in the.
Well, yes. So at first, I think, but just before the helicopter and noise, the guy says "Oh, we're just
that's
covering.
Right. He says,
we don't,
Yeah, he says, "I just work for the doctor." He says he lets us use it when he's away.
Yeah,
and he's like, "A doctor owns this house?" And
it's like
fucking
plastic surgeon, isn't it? He's like,
he says, "A plastic surgeon." He says, "What? How the fuck is that?"
Because I think, don't they think that he's security or something? They're like, "Oh, we thought you were security."
Yeah, first of all, you think because he's wearing the jumpsuit,
and he's like, "Oh, please don't dob us in for using the pool or something like that." It's like, "Oh, we're just looking after the place."
Yeah,
and then of course, like you said, we get the helicopter, and he hides under like an archway, doesn't he, with them?
Yeah, it's like a little sort of alcove sort of thing, and he grabs the girl's hand, and he sort of they drag them in there, and of course they're terribly worried for their daughter, and he notices that she's got blood on her, and he thinks he's hurt her.
Yeah, and he's like distraught about it. He's like,
I would never hurt. And the guy says, no, it's you. You hurt your hand when you came over the thing, and he starts bandaging up his hand with like a handkerchief or something, and he says, "Why don't you take me?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Just let my family go. Take me." He says, "You think I'm here to hurt your family?" It's like, "No, I've got a family myself." And the woman looks skeptical, but she's
I mean, to be fair, mate, from their perspective, you did just climb into this place with a shotgun. It's like, from their perspective, I can totally see why they would think at this point you were trying to, take them hostage or do something.
And he says, I've got a family myself. I would never hurt them. I would never hurt you, sort of thing. And then I think, where do we get from there?
Well, I think he just legs it, doesn't he?
He leaves. He leaves. I think and then I think I think that's when
he basically arrives home at that point, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I always think there's a weird thing. His wife grabs the daughter and she leaves the house. Yeah, and he gets there.
Oh, actually, sorry, we've missed one pivotal scene, which is when Prendergast gets another phone call from his wife, and he tells her to shut up, and he's like, "I'll be home when I'm damn ready to be home, and you'll have dinner on the table or something," isn't he? He probably he's finally snapped, and he tells her, what's for, and I think that's when they've realised the address, and they head over because they've heard.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's where the cake and that comes in, actually.
It may well be, and he punches them on the way out.
I think we had that the wrong way around. No, never mind.
Oh, it used to be so much easier when we used to watch these things and do live commentary. Our memories are no good. So he's then on his way. And he reaches his home, or former home, I guess. And she's left just in the nick of time.
And he sat watching
video, isn't he?
Videos of them when they,
when they were happy.
Couple.
Yeah.
And at first they're sort of quite kind of sweet, and
but you can see even then, can't you?
Brand new puppy and all that sort of stuff. And then there's a scene where
he's holding the daughter's hand too hard or something. Oh no, that's right. She doesn't want to be on the rocking horse. That's right.
Want to be on the and he's like, "Put her on the rocking horse," sort of thing. And you can see and I think even he's watching it, and I think even he sees that
he's seeing that he's not quite right. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously they cut the sirens again.
Yeah.
And
I think he sees the pier in the video, doesn't he? And he suddenly realizes that's probably where they've gone.
Yeah.
So he heads.
He gets up. And one thing we did actually forget was at one point the daughter had a watering pistol, which you saw her playing with.
Yes. Yeah.
And So we should have mentioned that. But you see, you've got Pendergast and his partner arrive at the front garden. She goes in first. He goes to get his gun, but of course, earlier on
he had to hand it in because he's retired.
He had to hand in because he's retired, so he doesn't have his gun. And meanwhile, there's a shot, and he rushes in. He's being cautious. He's checking around, keeping low. And there's no sign of them. And he gets to the garden. Of course, she's on the ground in the back garden. She's been shot.
Yeah.
And he takes her gun.
Weapon. Yeah.
And he says to the next door neighbours, "Call for an ambulance. There's an officer down."
Yeah.
And then he takes off after him.
Yeah.
And I think the wife chooses the stupidest.
You've chosen a dead end to take.
She chooses to take it to the end of a fucking pier.
Yeah, it is the dumbest place.
Nowhere to go.
I'm assuming she was thinking. I'm assuming she doesn't realize how big this is escalated, and I'm guessing she was just thinking, "I'll go somewhere public."
Yeah.
And then I'll be safe, and the pier is very public. But it is a really silly place to go. It's like, you've got no escape from this pier. Like, you're screwed. So, of course, he catches up with her. Or them, I should say. Her and their daughter.
Yeah. And the daughter's really happy to see him.
Well, yeah, because she doesn't know anything, and you get the impression that the mother's been obviously protecting her from his outbursts, and she doesn't realise anything. So she's really happy to see her dad. And he gives her, it's like a bear, isn't it, that he got? No, he doesn't give her anything. He just says, "Oh, I had this thing, but it got smashed."
I had it. Yeah. And he's got the gun.
Yeah.
He's got a pistol, and he's talking about it and stuff. And
yes, because
and he puts the pistol down, and you get the impression maybe this is not going to end well for all of them.
Yes, you get the impression this is just going to end badly at this point.
And
he starts saying, like, no one's going to come between us anymore, and I'm back now, and we're not going anywhere, and nothing's going to change that. And
then Pendergast speaks, and he's at the counter, and
he's playing it so cool with his popcorn.
Yeah, he's got some popcorn, and he's eating popcorn, and
doesn't he start complaining about the pier and how expensive the popcorn is?
He used to fish from this pier. He says, "And now you can't fish here." He says,
which I guess shows, like, Prendergast is picked up on the way this guy is from what he's done up to this point, and he's like, I can get to him in the same way that he got to his mother with, like, the ornaments. He's like, if I start talking about the price of things and how things have changed and how things aren't the same, I can get to this guy.
Yeah, but also he sees the parallels with himself.
Yeah, for sure. There is a massive parallel.
They're working. They're working people. They're working class people. They've had similar problems.
Yeah, and they're both redundant for one reason or another. Now
he explains to him about his daughter and how he lost his daughter and how the difference is that he didn't let these decisions get to him like he has.
Yeah.
They're similar, but he didn't kill people. He hasn't. He hasn't done, come to the same conclusions he has.
Yeah.
He says to about, they lied to me. He says, they lied to you. Of course they fucking lie to you.
Yeah.
They lie to everybody.
Yeah.
You think you're the only person who's been lied to. Mm. And the wife kicks the gun away.
Yeah. And then he really loses it. Then he's like,
she takes the girl and
runs.
She runs off.
And of course he freaks right out and tries to chase her, but then Prendergast pulls the gun on him.
Yeah. This is again, it's that fucking awesome line, and he just says, he's talking to him about what you do, what you've done, and all that sort of stuff. And he says to him, you just see it dawn on him. It's like, I'm the bad guy?
Yeah, he suddenly realizes. Because I think doesn't Prendergast say, like, he was like, I just came to be with my family, and Prendergast is like, no, you were going to kill her, and then you were going to kill your daughter, and then you were going to kill yourself.
I know where this was going. Yeah. I know exactly where this was going.
And you do think, you get that impression that Defense really, at that point, realizes that he's probably right. It's like a moment of, he's like suddenly lucid and suddenly like, oh God, like, actually, you're right. Like, I probably was going to do that. Like, it's like he's suddenly come out of this like sort of I don't know, almost dementia-like thing where he can suddenly look at himself and be like, oh shit, actually, you probably are right. I am the bad guy. Like, I'm the bad guy here. And
but as he said, I did everything right. I did everything.
They told me. Yeah, he's like, I did everything they told me to do.
And he says, this. Pendergast basically says to him, this doesn't have to end this way.
Because doesn't defense say, like, why don't we have it? I've got a gun. Why don't we have a shootout? And Prendergast kind of laughs and he's like, I'd rather not. Like, let's not.
No, this is the way it should end. He says, sort of thing, and
he's like sunset.
He says, look. He says, no. He says, look. He says, you can stop. You can. Don't you want to see your daughter again? And he says to him, what, through bars?
Yeah.
He's like, no. He basically says to him, no. You end this. And my wife will get the insurance.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah, he sees this as the best ending right at this point. Yeah.
And so he says
tells him to draw, doesn't he?
He says tells him to draw, and he goes to draw, and
of course Prendergast this whole time has got a gun on him already. So it's like
he's already drawed.
Even if defense had a gun, like he's fucked. Like this is not gonna work. Like regardless that he's done. So of course he draws, gets shot.
But the thing is Pendergast, even though you say that he wouldn't, but he does. He touches his face. He's got a water pistol. He squirted him with a water pistol. He got him.
Yeah, I guess they would have shot each other.
Yeah, he says to him, "I'd have got you. I'd have got you. I'd have got you."
Yeah.
And then he crashes through the fence and falls into the water, into the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get this really nice scene. Well, I can't remember whether it's the press bit first or the daughter bit first. I think he goes to see. Is it the press bit? I love this.
They're going back to the house, and there's press everywhere, and there's ambulances and stuff. And his bloody chief's there saying, "Oh yeah, my guy put it all together. He's a really great copper. He's a fantastic copper." He goes, "Oh, here he is now." He goes, "Here's Pendergast now," and he says, "Fuck you very much, Captain. Fuck you very much."
Yeah. And you even get the like news anchor or someone is just like, did he just say that? Like, did that just happen?
Yeah.
And then of course we get this really nice scene where you get.
He's talking to the wife.
Yeah, and she's like, "What shall I do? Like, I don't."
What should do? And there's all these kids there. They've all got presents.
For her party because they were planning a party. Yeah.
And she's like, "What do I do? Do I tell her?" And he's like,
"Let her have
not
a
today."
party.
He's like, "Let her have a party. Tell her later," sort of thing. And he sits down on the steps with the girl. And he says, "What's your name?" And she says, what is her name? Cassie or something?
Something like that.
I can't remember what her name is. And he says, "Oh, my name's Mud." And she says, He says, "Yes, it is." He says, my name will be Mud when my wife realizes that I'm not retiring."
Can you imagine though, like, he's not going to retire and he's going to stay on in that fucking department where everyone hates him and the boss hates him, and he's just told him to go fuck himself on live TV. Yeah. I'm like, really?
I think he might be.
Might want to transfer.
He might want to transfer, yeah.
But I guess maybe that was the plan. Maybe they'll move somewhere and he can get a transfer to it somewhere else. But
and I think that's the thing is that whole thing that's kind of re-energized him, hasn't it?
Yes.
It's proved to him that he can make a difference. He can do. He's a good guy. He's a good policeman.
Not only.
He was the only one willing to make connections that none of the other coppers. Well, the other coppers were too fucking, blinkered to see.
So this is the thing. This could have been. If they'd listened to Prendergast, this could have been resolved, I think, after that gang shooting.
Yeah.
Like, he would have caught the guy before he did anything else. And because they ignored him and just, didn't listen to him and did nothing with the evidence that Prendergast, or take Prendergast seriously, the other deaths in this movie never would have happened.
No.
So yeah, it's all kind of down to that.
And with without him, we
could, and without him, obviously, probably would have ended in death.
A dead kid and a dead woman as well. On top of that,
and him, he probably would have shot himself as well.
Yeah, of course, he would have turned it on himself. Yeah.
So yeah, it's re-energized him, and that's where the movie ends. I think I love this movie. I can see how it's not aged terribly well in places, certainly with some of its opinions and.
But I also think that it almost feels completely more relevant now.
In some ways, certainly, but some of some ways.
And some of the race stuff is...
Some of the stereotyping's pretty bad.
But I also think it kind of treats them all...
It does. No one comes off...
Almost equally.
Yeah.
No one really comes out well, other than Prendergast,
really. And the daughter are the only two that really... And maybe his wife, to an extent. She didn't really do anything wrong either.
No.
But other than that, most of the people in this film... Oh, and Sandra's all right. But other than that, pretty much everyone in this film is awful in some way or another. Pretty much.
Yeah.
You're right. It doesn't cast anyone in a good light. But I can certainly see the argument. Certainly
from the Korean point of view, and from the Hispanic guys. They're not painted in. But as people have pointed out, stereotypes are there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Stereotypes exist because of things.
Sure.
And sure, you can use them badly.
Yeah, I don't think this is necessarily used badly, it's not. This film doesn't treat. Although we've said a few times, like especially with the burgers thing, I was like, I totally agree. Or like an overpriced store, you're like, those frustrations. Yeah. This film does not paint this man as a hero.
No,
and you're not supposed to think of him as a hero, and I don't think anyone would.
I think some people have some people have interpreted it like it's a fucking Death Wish movie.
Yeah, and it's really not.
And it's not.
It's about a really disturbed man snapping.
It makes it clear when he's in the Army Navy store.
Yeah.
That guy thinks what some people have interpreted.
Yeah, that guy thinks he's a vigilante doing.
Standing up to what he sees as the degenerates of society.
And
and he's not.
No, you hit the nail on the head completely earlier on when you said this movie is more than anything, it's about people who need help who haven't got the help they need.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's the whole thing. It's about how I guess if you want to put it in cliche terms, it's about the fucking American dream's death. It's the fact that the American dream lies to you.
Yeah, I mean, even the gang. You get the girlfriend of one of the gang guys, and like she seems to be wanting to turn her life around, and the cops treat her like fucking shit.
Yeah,
they're like, you're in here again. You're just a complete twat, and it's like
her own family when she's giving description of the guy. Her own family say, you never talk to the police. You don't, So,
and she's trying to do the right thing. She's like,
because of her boyfriend's been hurt.
The whole movie is like people that just need help and are not getting the help that they need.
Yeah,
they're getting let down by society, or they're getting let down by business, or they're getting let down by the law.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the theme of this movie. And I love this movie. I really do. I think it's for me it's one of Michael Douglas's best performances.
Completely. I think it is probably his best performance. I think he's
Duval actually.
And the thing about this movie is I think he'd come off of Basic Instinct, and he was going to take, not exactly retire, but he was going to take time off. He didn't want to do any more movies. He was going to have a break. And Schumacher, who's his friend, said, "I've got this script. I want you to play this character." And he was like, "No, I'm not interested," because I think Douglas had been offered all these similar parts that he was playing at this time, these sort of like slightly older guys, the standard sort of guys, And I think he just had enough. And he said, look, just read the script. Tell me what you think. And he read the script and he was like, I will do this.
Yeah, this is the opposite of what I do.
And
yeah.
This script had been going for a while and it had been turned down and no one was interested. And he took a pay cut to do this movie.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at this point, he was one of the highest paid actors he, like I said, he'd been, Basic Instinct was huge.
Fatal Attraction.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he was on a roll there, and he said, no, I'll take a pay cut for this movie. I loved this character, this movie so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, and I think even his dad, because I think there was a lot of controversy even at the time, around this movie and the racism and how it was portraying the working man and all that sort of stuff. So that it was heated. And his dad actually did an essay in the newspaper about how this was he thought it was his son's best work.
Yeah.
And how it wasn't what people had been saying it was, So and on top of that, you're talking about this. Literally, while they were filming this, the LA riots happened.
Yeah,
they had to close down because the riots happened.
Yeah, so
there was all these fucking tensions going on. While
for sure. I mean, the tensions. Yeah, absolutely. And it,
again, when we've seen similar things that we've talked about recently, these things still resonate now. There's
absolutely,
still these things gone. As the saying goes, everything changes, but it all fucking stays the same.
Yeah, a lot of the issues in this are still absolutely around.
Yeah, it's a really fucking amazing movie, and I don't think enough people have seen it, as it should be, as it should be seen, because I think it got no fucking awards. It wasn't even nominated. I mean, Michael Douglas wasn't even nominated. How the fuck does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, this performance is amazing. It really is. And I think you're right. It's criminal.
And really it annoys the crap out of me that people, they talk about Joel Schumacher and they talk about the Batman movies.
Yeah, they ignore all of the... yeah.
It's like, look at this. Look at what he did before those fucking movies.
Absolutely.
And the only reason those movies are awful is not because that was the studio to fucking do. That's what the studio wanted.
Yeah.
The toy company, the toys, they wanted that. They wanted to sell toys. They couldn't do that with fucking. They couldn't do that with
Tim Burton's dark morbid
stuff,
vision. Yeah.
So they wanted to make it more bloody 60s Batman, and apparently Schumacher is a Batman fan. He wanted to make
for sure.
He wanted to make Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
But that's not what he got issued. And from his point of view, fuck it. Why not? Why not make 60s Batman? You know what I mean? If you can't.
Well, that's what he's getting told to do. Is embrace it. Then I'll just go really stupid if that's what you want. Yeah.
And the fact, Joel Schumacher has made one of my favourite movies of all time, Lost Boys.
Yeah. Oh, Joel Schumacher's great. And you're right, it's criminal that he just gets, it's Batman and Robin. It's like, oh, no, come on.
And even those fucking movies have things in them that are good.
Yeah.
For what they are. I mean, I fucking hate those movies, but they've still got stuff in them that are good. They've still got, little nuggets of gold in them. They're just not the Burton movies.
No, they're not.
So it just annoys me. This is I think probably the best movie Schumacher did. Really.
Yeah, I think so.
Even though I love Lost Boys more because that's one of my favorite movies. But this is a better movie. It's better directed. It's better acted. Everything about this movie is
better.
Just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. But yes, that was Falling Down, a great movie. And we'll be back next week with movie reviews, as usual.
Yeah,
and I guess we'll see what we're going to review for our big review in 2 weeks' time.
But, I think though I haven't chosen the movie, I think with bloody hell. What's his name?
I don't know. What is his name?
The director of Superman, the original.
Oh, Richard Donner.
Richard Donner died this week.
He did indeed.
So I think maybe we should pick a Donner movie.
Yeah, but which one? Because that dude did a lot.
Well, exactly. So I think we've got 2 weeks. So I think we'll discuss it.
We'll have a think about that. Yeah.
We'll come up with a Donner movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the obvious one to go for is Superman.
But or maybe The Omen. You did The Omen, right?
Oh God, yeah, I love The Omen.
But yeah, there's a lot of choice anyway. We'll have a think.
There's a lot of
it.
choice, but yeah. I think we should definitely do a Donner movie.
That sounds good to me. But of course, next week we'll be back to our usual review show.
We will.
And yes, thank you for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.